For countless generations, humanity has looked to the moon as a symbol of mystery and wonder. It has guided sailors, inspired poets, and stood as a silent witness to the rise and fall of civilizations. We have explored its surface, walked upon it, and even brought pieces of it back to Earth. Yet, despite all our advancements, the moon still harbors secrets that are only now beginning to surface. In recent months, a quiet but powerful storm has begun brewing in the scientific community. At the center of it is China's latest lunar mission, Chang'e 6, a mission that, on the surface, appeared routine, but quickly evolved into something much more profound. Something troubling. Something historic. Chang'e 6 was launched with the goal of exploring the moon's far side, the hemisphere perpetually hidden from Earth due to tidal locking. This region is rugged, cratered, and largely unexplored, making it a perfect site for geological study. But this mission would turn out to be anything but ordinary. The lander touched down in the South Pole Aitken Basin, one of the largest and oldest impact craters in the solar system. This basin is massive, more than 2,500 kilometers in diameter and nearly 13 kilometers deep. It is a scar from a colossal impact, and scientists have long speculated that it might expose the moon's deep crust or even mantle. What Chang'e 6 found, however, exceeded every expectation. Within days of landing, mission control began receiving anomalous data. Radiation levels were fluctuating erratically. Unusual heat signatures were picked up, heat that seemed to emanate not from the sun or the regolith, but from beneath the surface itself. Most puzzling of all was the discovery of a weak but repeating electromagnetic signal. It wasn't noise. It had structure, patterns, like a coded transmission. At first, engineers assumed it was interference, either from the lander or from Earth. But when they analyzed the waveform, they were stunned. It wasn't random. It repeated prime numbers in sequence. Then, Fibonacci sequences. Then bursts of binary code. This wasn't interference. It was communication. Buried beneath the surface of the moon was something not only capable of emitting signals, it was seemingly intelligent in its design. The Chinese National Space Administration, CNSA, initially downplayed the findings. They cited routine calibration procedures and minor anomalies. But something was clearly wrong. Live streams from the mission were suddenly cut. The official social media updates ceased. Scientific partners from other nations reported being locked out of shared databases. Then came the blackout. The Chang'e 6 lander stopped transmitting altogether. For weeks, silence. But behind the scenes, information began leaking. Whistleblowers from within CNSA and affiliated research teams began speaking to select international journalists under strict anonymity. Their claims were staggering. According to these insiders, ground-penetrating radar and seismic sensors on the lander had discovered a hollow void beneath the moon's crust. Not a natural lava tube or empty cavern, but a vast symmetrical chamber with reflective surfaces and unusual geometry. More than that, inside this void was an object. A structure. Not made of any known lunar rock or mineral. It was composed of a dense alloy, highly resistant to drilling and completely impervious to standard imaging techniques. Some reports described it as octagonal. Others called it pyramidal. All agreed it was precise, artificial, and, most disturbingly, ancient. One internal report, later leaked to the public, referred to the object as the Sentinel. That name stuck. The Sentinel appeared dormant at first. But as the lander drew closer, attempting to deploy its rover into the entrance shaft, the object responded. Lights flickered along its base. The electromagnetic signal changed, becoming more rhythmic. Cameras on the rover failed. Communication relays overheated. Instruments glitched out one by one. And then everything stopped. Silence returned. Around the same time, a Nobel Prize-winning physicist from Europe, whose identity remains protected, contacted an international science journal with a warning. This scientist had reviewed early data from the Chang'e 6 mission, and what they claimed changed everything. The Sentinel, they said, was not just old. It was impossibly old. Preliminary dating of surrounding lunar sediment suggested the object could be over 1.6 billion years old, far older than any human civilization and even older than the Moon's last major volcanic activity. The object was likely embedded into the Moon during or shortly after its formation. It was not placed there by modern hands. Possibly not even by human hands. But this wasn't what alarmed the physicist most. What terrified them was the object's ability to respond. The transmission of prime numbers is universally considered the simplest and most unambiguous sign of intelligent communication. It bypasses language and culture. If something replies with prime numbers, it understands mathematics. It understands intelligence. It understands us. The signal wasn't an accident. It was a handshake. And now, for the first time in history, something had shaken back. Following this disclosure, strange developments occurred. Multiple radio observatories around the globe began picking up faint echoes, reverberations in deep space. These echoes, when decoded, bore similarities to the Chang'e signal. They were weaker, older, faded, but they suggested that the Sentinel had not always been silent. Has it been communicating all along? Not just with us, but with something else? NASA, ESA, Roscosmos, and private space companies were quick to issue statements refusing to comment. When pressed by reporters, officials merely repeated that they had no evidence of extraterrestrial activity. Yet, behind closed doors, preparations began. Amateur astronomers began reporting strange light anomalies on the lunar surface. Brief flashes of bluish light near the far side. Faint movement, captured with high-powered telescopes. For a while, these were dismissed as lens flares or sensor glitches. But not anymore. Archived data from Apollo 15 and 17 missions, long forgotten, are now being reanalyzed. In 1971, an astronaut recorded hearing a strange whirring sound during moonwalk operations, one he likened to a deep mechanical hum. That recording was buried for decades. Now, in light of the new discovery, it's being considered evidence. What if the Sentinel has always been there? What if its purpose is not to communicate, but to observe? And then came the most chilling revelation. According to a final batch of leaked documents, the gravitational readings near the South Pole Aitken Basin began to shift. Minutely. Marginally. But enough to register. Something had changed. Either mass was moving, or energy was being released. A planetary scientist, who spoke on condition of anonymity, described it as a sleeping engine starting to stir. Theories now abound. Some suggest the object is a beacon, meant to alert its creators when intelligent life reaches a certain stage of development. Others argue it may be a safeguard or a trap, placed to prevent humanity from spreading beyond Earth. Some even claim it could be an ark, storing the remnants of an ancient civilization, waiting for rediscovery. But what no one can deny is this: the Moon is no longer just a dead rock in the sky. It is a vault. A tomb. Or perhaps, a gate. The Nobel laureate's final warning rings with eerie clarity. We may have just rung a bell that cannot be unrung. And we have no idea who, or what, may be listening. As the world waits, China remains silent. Their lunar program continues under a shroud of secrecy. But the questions are multiplying. Why suppress the data? Why silence the mission? If there is nothing to fear, why the fear? And if the Sentinel is active, what is it waiting for? We stand at the edge of a great unknown. The Moon has watched us rise from primitive nomads to cosmic explorers. And now, perhaps, it is finally ready to speak. Or worse, it is ready to act. In the coming months, more missions will be launched. The Moon will be revisited. But something fundamental has changed. Humanity now knows that we are not alone. Not in the philosophical sense, but in the tangible, scientific, and terrifying sense. We have uncovered something we do not understand. And in doing so, we may have awakened an ancient power, dormant and buried, under the cold silence of the lunar soil. What comes next? Only time and the moon will tell.